Right, hello there. So this is practice at Monaco, which I believe to be one of the most technically challenging circuits on the F1 calendar. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show 5 reasonably good laps. Not the very best by any means, but laps that will be interesting enough to watch, hopefully, and something that I can sort of talk about as we're going through the track. Then I'm going to do quite a slow sort of lap on purpose, so that I can sort of talk through different corners and maybe give some recommendations on what I would do. And then finally I'll talk about the setup I chose to use for this and why, and also why I didn't choose to use the setup which I'm aware a lot of other people do use. I would use it in some situations, but not in this case. So, you know, first of all, I don't claim to be the best driver on this game. I'm certainly not. You know, there are people out there that are still 2 and 3 seconds quicker than me. I've got no idea how to manage it, and I know some of the ways that they're doing it, but yeah, somehow they're just miles ahead. But by the same token, I don't think I'm the worst either, so yeah, if I can help in any way, then that's what I'll try to do. Now, this circuit I think is very difficult, mainly because of just how tight it is. I mean, you look at how quickly the track appears to be moving past. You know, you're not travelling any faster than you are on any other circuit, but look at it all just rushing past. You know, in terms of difficulty, this is right up there with the sort of S-Benz and Suzuka. You know, this is very challenging and demanding in terms of your focus. And this first corner here, the braking point I always find very difficult, and you just want to get 2 sort of wheels, like your right wheels, just over that curve to cut it and get the right sort of line into those other corners. And these are very hard too. The mistake I made on this particular lap there, I went to the inside first. I should have gone to the outside and then gradually sort of cut closer and closer to the apex throughout the corner, so that I didn't get punished for my line throughout the rest of the corners. This one I did the same sort of thing. I don't really want, ideally, to be riding that curve, but I did on that particular corner. On some of them you do want to, on that you really don't. You want to go as wide as possible and then just sort of swing the car around very gradually, just so that you don't drift too far towards the outside. Got to watch your braking point here too. You know, I mean, if the slightest mistake could cost you, and you might actually end up invalidating your lap by cutting over that curb section too much. These corners are also very interesting in the sense that, you know, you're travelling through them so quickly. They're very sort of exhilarating. Yeah, if you make a slight mistake there, it really costs you. You know, we're talking damage, not just time. Right, so we're obviously back onto the straight, deploying the DRS. Now this time I've got a slightly better line through there, just touching the curb, but really I could have gone a bit further over that just to get a bit more time shaved off. Now I kept it nice and clean on the inside here, didn't go too wide on this corner either, so that actually worked quite well. On that corner I've just come out of as well, what I would say is sometimes go slightly wider than you might think is ideal, because if you straighten up enough coming onto that section, your car won't actually sort of slide around like it does sometimes. I find myself losing a lot of traction because I don't go far enough to the outside first, so it's something very difficult. And through this tunnel as well, something worth mentioning, even there's a slight apex. You know, you want to go right to the left and then just very smoothly turn to the inside on the right. There's a point on this is really sad, but there's a point on the inside barrier that's a slightly different colour to the rest, and as soon as that sort of section begins, that's sort of the apex you want to get near. As soon as you reach that, you can drift back towards the outside and then move back across for your line, coming down to that severe sort of braking point. So yeah, you can see that gradually with these laps I am sort of improving a bit. Now at this point, you should be able to see, I think, but at this point it says that my best is a 1:15.825. Now at this point this was my best lap. There's a significant difference between my best lap at this stage and the best lap which I managed to achieve later. There are a number of reasons for it, and a lot of it is to do with the fact that, you know, with this track being so challenging, it's just the daring sort of instinct. You know, it took me a while to get used to this again on this game. I remember the last time I drove Monaco, which was on F1 2014, the car handling sort of dynamics were very different on there. You know, they've actually reworked the engine for this game completely from the last sort of instalment. So the handling, the braking, the fact that on this game you have a little bit of understeer if you're not smooth enough. You know, I wasn't used to any of that. So it took me some time to get used to that on this track, which is why, you know, it's not until quite a bit later which I actually managed to pull off this better time. But you'll see why in a minute, and it's a noticeable improvement from these laps. I mean, these laps are okay, but every now and then, you know, I'm just going slightly too wide, or I'm not really smooth enough through a corner, or I'm sort of hesitating, any number of things. So yeah, obviously this time, on that first corner just then, you saw that my wheels were actually over the curb and I got a much cleaner line throughout the rest. And I also believe that on this lap, yeah, I keep a bit further to the inside, drift back out and get a better line through here, so that's a big improvement too. Slightly caught the barrier there, as you probably just heard, a bit of a tyre squeal, so that was a bit messy, but apart from that, pretty good. Here, nice and wide, this time I managed to avoid clipping that inside curb, so I got a smooth line through there. You want to clip it a bit there, that's ideally what you want to try and do. Here, I had a bit of a hesitation, I started turning in and then stopped, and then turning again. That wasn't ideal, I managed to sort of get away with that, but if I'd have done that any later, then I could have ended up going too wide. Here, I actually managed not to sort of skid about this time. Under braking, because of the elevation change, you're going downhill, it's very easy to start feeling the car shifting around a bit when you're doing that. So brake just before where the sort of braking point recommendation is on your racing line, and then just sort of release the brake, accelerate forward very slightly just to bring yourself towards the corner. It is usually a little bit slower than you might like, but still it's better than crashing, you know, it's better than spinning out. So most of the time, unless you're really pushing, just brake that little bit earlier on that, because it's not worth it. So this lap I'm just going to talk through things. I've already talked about the first corner enough. For this one, like I'm saying, go right to the outside and then gradually get closer to the inside, as you just saw, and then it sets you up nicely for the following corners. For these ones, this one you can sort of get away with braking slightly late because you can swing back round. This one, right to the outside here, swing round and don't touch that curb, and you get a much better line. You know, initially you think, why am I going so wide? But when the car gradually turns in, you know, what you're concerned with is the line throughout the rest of the corner. And this is what I was talking about in the tunnel. Come to the inside here, where it says F1 on those black and white banners, and then come back to the outside and then set yourself up here. Brake a little bit earlier here, just so that you're not skidding towards that area. And then, even though it's initially slower, you will have a better sort of getaway, better traction throughout the rest of that corner coming onto this straight section here. That's a really daring corner. You've got to brake very slightly and just get it so close to that inside barrier, it's unbelievable. Same sort of situation here, and you can just cut slightly over that curb that I've just gone over there too. And then through these, just don't push your luck, you know, if you go too wide there, it might compromise your line through the final corner, and that might ruin your lap. So, now for the good lap. And already through that bit, just coming onto the lap, you know, you can see I'm being a lot more aggressive, getting really close to that barrier now. So DRS is deployed, I'm flying down towards the first corner and just manage to get my wheels onto that curb at the right point and get through there with a nice clean line. Coming up to this corner, I go to the outside first, cut ever so slightly closer to the inside, and I get a good line through here. There's no skidding at all from my car this time, which is the first. Here I brake ever so slightly a bit later than I usually would, but I managed to get away with it. I hold my line nice and wide here, good line out of the corner, don't clip the curb. Here, just get enough of the curb so I get a good right line, and here, no sort of skidding again. Coming onto the tunnel, good traction, good exit, so flying down the tunnel, clip my sort of apex point there, brake just before the braking point here, just over the curb there, no violation of line whatsoever. Now I really go for it here, you know, usually I don't take so many risks, but look how close I got to that barrier that time, you know, I thought I was going to crash, to be quite honest. Just over the curb there too, obviously I'm keeping two wheels on the track, so it's not a violation. Through here, don't take too many risks. I get it slightly wide here, but I get a good exit, and I come back onto the finishing straight to cross the line in a 1 minute 15.044, which is 8/10 faster roughly than I was before. So a significant improvement there, because I was just that bit more daring in certain corners and I didn't make quite so many hesitations or mistakes. So, you know, it's a circuit for practice, it really is. And just one final thing I'd mention, the setup I use for this is the sort of like the increased downforce setup, so not the most downforce here, because a lot of people use that, but I think personally that it's a bit too much. You know, you want the car to sort of drift around ever so slightly just to give you that bit of freedom, but you don't want to sort of overdo it. So you want increased levels of grip on this circuit, because for Monaco you won't be able to achieve your top speed anyway. So because of that, you know, you want higher downforce levels in the corners, allowing you to get smoother lines, not drift around so much, and get good traction when you're leaving the corners. So I hope that's been helpful, I hope it's been interesting. I will do more of these if that's what people want, but the next ones I have on my list are Hockenheim in Germany and Silverstone in the UK. After that I may do some other ones, some of the more iconic ones perhaps, like Spa in Belgium and maybe also Monza in Italy. So thank you for watching.